Super Bowl 57 is in the books. The Kansas City Chiefs win 38-35. It was a solid 48, or what was it? 50, 50, 15 equals 15 times 4 equals what, gentlemen? 60.
60.
So it was a solid 58 straight minutes of great football, and the last 2 minutes had the air taken all out of it because of that penalty, which we'll obviously get into. But we had interesting commercials, a halftime show that has a lot to talk about, and all in all, it was a great night in America. And let's take it all in right here, right now. Let's recap Super Bowl 57. Alex Ranniello, Bryan McKeon, and Alex Young are here. What's up, guys?
How we doing?
Yes. What's up?
What's up, everyone?
Do it.
Good. I'm good. We're all good. And Super Bowl 57. Let's talk about it. So I'm going to start it off with a simple question and answer, guys. I want you to describe the Super Bowl in a few words or less. We'll start with me. This was a very, very good Super Bowl. It was on the brink of being a classic. It really was. And of course, we had that penalty, and which we'll obviously get a little deeper into it. But besides that penalty, I think this was a very fun game. It really was. And as I mentioned, all the other aspects, what makes the Super Bowl fun, all A pluses there. It was a very good time.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Yeah, just an extremely exciting game. A lot of talent on both sides of the ball. Both quarterbacks. I've never seen a Super Bowl where two quarterbacks both played that well before. So it was a true testament to their development and their skill set. Just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I was gonna say great battle, but lackluster finish. But it was entertaining throughout. I want to say I predicted that it was going to be a high score game. It ended up being exactly the game I wanted it to be. Just a back and forth battle. It was exciting, but yeah, just to have it end the way it kind of ended, and we'll talk about it. Just made it kind of suck the drama out of the end of the game there. But like I said, great battle. There's a lackluster finish.
I think what Matt said was perfectly spot on. About 58 minutes of great football. It was exciting. It was riveting. Had a little bit of everything from both sides. I found it fascinating that both teams beat each other with their weaker link. The Kansas City outran Philadelphia, and Philadelphia outpassed KC, which was really funny. But we'll get more into it.
Yeah, and I am so glad I was wrong in my prediction. And of course, everybody who's commenting, thanks for reminding me about that, and all of us. But the Kansas City Chiefs, they win their second Super Bowl in 4 years. Patrick Mahomes gets a second Super Bowl MVP. Andy Reid overcomes the one team that was casting a shadow over him, and he defeats them. How poetic does it get than that? The Kelsey brothers both played a good game as well. And like I said, I've been looking forward to discussing all of this right now. So one thing I want to talk about too is, before we get into that penalty, how close did they get that fake script score? The one that they said it was 37-34 Eagles.
Nah.
That was way too close for comfort. But whoever called that, and whoever were the silly people who actually made that score, I heard something like $500,000 was actually bet on that final score, and that really was oddly close, huh?
Yeah, it's definitely an eerie feeling on that.
Yeah, very weird.
Yeah, and if that happened, well, I don't know. You can't take anything seriously ever again.
Okay.
But next up, though, that penalty. So in the final 2 minutes of the fourth quarter, we see the Eagles running down the field thanks to a Kadarius Toney punt return, and on third down, we have Patrick Mahomes throwing to Juju Smith-Schuster, and James Bradbury, the former Giant, held on to his jersey. And let's say, even though if he didn't touch it, I don't think Juju was going to make that catch. But we heard it all day. Was this a borderline penalty? Yes. Could it have been called? Yes. Could it have not been called? No. But ultimately, in the rules of the game, it was a defensive holding call. And they got it. That obviously resetted the set of downs. And ultimately, the Chiefs didn't score a touchdown. They scored a field goal, and that they let the clock run down, only gave Jalen Hurts one more play after that, and a Hail Mary that was very, very short, to say the least. But yeah, as we mentioned, this was the call that totally took the air out of the balloon and made this classic game an infamous one. And ultimately, it helped lead to a Chiefs victory. Now, if things were reversed and they had that field goal right away, they would have had at least 2 timeouts. The offense was ringing all game long for the Chiefs, and it could have led to a tie game, and it could have led to another overtime Super Bowl. And don't forget, there's the new overtime rules as well. So at least this classic game would have gone with both teams getting a chance to score.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool, but it wasn't
Yep.
meant to be. And let's talk about it right here, right now. Should that penalty have been called?
Fuck no. I want to go first on this. I'll be very quick. I'll be quick. I understand, we all understand here that the rules get tweaked and changed year after year. It's part of improving the game. It's part of the league. We understand it. But to not be fucking consistent the entire game, all at once during 58 minutes of play, and then to put it on the most pivotal possession really just screams disrespect and inconsistency and hypocrisy from the league level. And it's not even the refs' fault per se, because they are just trying to make the call. But to not call it the entire game, because it definitely was going on the entire game, it's just really disgusting. You have a minute 45. If they give up that field goal on 4th down and they're able to stop the clock one more time, are you trying to tell me that Jalen Hurts can't go at least 75, 80 yards in a minute 45 with the sidelines and everything involved? He could easily, if not a game-winning touchdown. So I don't want to hear the stuff from people on, like, oh, they didn't have a chance. Bullshit. They had more than enough time. And matter of fact, if they got it too fast, Kansas City would have had time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And what really bothers me too is that the bump and the tag was within 5 yards. And that's another wrinkle to this.
Good point.
Because even if you allege that he did hook him and he had his jersey, which I didn't really see conclusively, it's still within 5 yards. It's bump and run. And the fact that the catch wasn't even quite confirmed in play, like, they always delegate, like, oh, well, if it's kind of out of the capability of being caught, it's kind of graded on a curve in terms of, how bad the penalty is. There wasn't even that conversation involved. And it's really just sad because they showcase and highlight all the technology and all the capabilities that they have with these cameras. And to not get the call right is really just sad to see a 58-minute exceptional game end the way it did. But I'll let you guys have it.
Like I said, Alex, about the AFC Championship, I hate it when the refs decide such a crucial game.
That's it.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I understand the refs had to make the call. That's what they're paid to do. But if you look at the replay and it's in the 5 yards and it's like a 50-50, let them play. At that point, it's such a pivotal play, and the ball wasn't even near Schuster. It wasn't like Bradbury was like hanging on the hips and he clearly couldn't make a move. It was like literally just like a pull. Like you see Bradbury just go like a small pinch. Schuster could have easily just sprinted and gotten to the ball if you want, but the ball I think was still too far, even if he went all out for it. So that was the thing that bothered me most. I understand why they did it. Yes, he did grab his jersey. You see it. It's a clear thing. But at that point, it was just so quick, and it didn't really, to me, impede him making the catch on the ball. I think the ball still sailed like 5 yards past wherever you can get it. It wasn't like he went from here and all of a sudden he's jerked back and the ball is, lands where his hands were. So yeah, it's just, it was frustrating to see that. And, like everyone knows, I'm a Giants fan. it's great for me to see the Eagles lose. Whatever, I'm not going to be a hater. They played a really good game, but I'm not happy about it. Like the way it ended, I would have loved to see them kick that field goal and see what Hurts was doing because he was balling out. Also, Devontae Smith just cooked that corner, and I'm pissed because, like you guys know, I was 3 yards away of winning like $300. Pissed he just cooked it. Like, I just wanted to see the Eagles get their final chance to do something because they were playing so damn well and it was just a great battle. So the fact that happened, that was a bit bothering. Once I saw that flag and I saw the replay, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. If it's like it's a 50-50, let them play. If they want to go for it on fourth down, let them do it. If they want to be safe and kick the field goal, go for it. But again, it's such a pivotal moment, and it just killed the game, and it just killed the whole vibe because it was such great football up to that point where it wasn't really. There's a few questionable calls here and there, sure, yeah, on either side, but on that such pivotal play, you just let them play. Just let them play, especially seeing where that ball landed. It wasn't like Schuster could have made a catch on it anyway.
I absolutely agree with both of you. It's just sad because this game, it should have come down to the final, drive. Like the fact that Jared McKinnon had to do that rush and just slide, it like took the feeling of the Super Bowl out of the Super Bowl. Like the fact that you could even like, you know what I mean? Like just seeing that is like such a regular season move just to get a win for a season. You know what I mean? Like,
the regular season.
Jared McKinnon, put your head down and get that touchdown and let your defense
do the Bradshaw, please. That's what I was hoping for.
It just felt weird. And you know what's also interesting? Deebo Samuel called out James Bradbury before the Super Bowl and called him trash and said, "You watch in this Super Bowl." And listen, because I agree with you guys. It's a questionable call. It shouldn't happen, but it happened to the one guy he called trash, and that's a little interesting. He got exposed this game a little bit, Bradbury. But yeah, it comes down to there's going to be a real talk, and I would say the next 5 to 10 years on just fully like going to getting rid of refs and doing everything with cameras and just having the booth in New York do it, because at this point there's so much volatility. I feel like there's guys on the ground calling it one way, and then they get in their headset, "Hey, don't call that from New York." And so it's like, are we getting biased from New York because they want an agenda? We were talking about the script stuff, or is it that they're seeing it a different way? So it's like, in my opinion, it's either I rather everything, it'd be like Pee-wee, no cameras, everything be the judges, but the referees on the field, or completely cameras and booth review and, guys in New York, because then at least there's consistency and there's no ambiguity in who's really making this call. And that's the problem I have with this, because, Pat Mahomes is the poster boy of them, the new guy on the face.
There you go.
For the NFL,
Mr. Goodell.
It also,
exactly.
I was gonna say with Goodell, it also doesn't help that after that call, he was seen on camera like hugging and dapping up all the Chiefs guys, like he won the Super Bowl.
Exactly.
I was like, that doesn't help.
Yeah, so there has to be some consistency and fairness in this. I think going back and forth this hybrid method is actually a detriment than an actual benefit.
Isn't it ironic? Yeah, you're saying now.
Okay. Oh, I was just gonna say, it's like, and just the timing of it too. It's like you just leave more questions than answers with fans going into an off season where again we're back to the drawing board. What's a catch? What isn't a catch? What's a penalty? What's not a penalty? It's just there's no fucking consistency, and frankly, it's sad because we keep backtracking. We're not making any progress.
It's just so ironic in a year where we talked about the officials and their calls and how much they affected a game. It really came down to the final 2 minutes of the Super Bowl, 120 million people watching, and you just so happen to throw the flag there when there was minimal penalties throughout. And, where we talk about where states have legalized gambling and stuff, I'm not going to play Illuminati here, but you just question, like, wow, what integrity is there?
Nothing gets better. Nothing gets better when there's more money involved. Let's put it that way.
For sure.
And, it really all started in the 2018 NFC Championship. I don't know, like there was like a switch happened with these official calls. And this is going to transition to our next point. I don't get why the NFL will pay $800,000 for a field that they spent 2 years on. And can they at least hire these refs full-time, be full-time employees, give them proper training throughout the entire year? get that. They need to be physically fit, go through intense training and pull that off. I mean, no, I guess not.
And if you're going to be scouting fields for the most important fucking game of the year, why don't you get a field where people aren't sliding around like an ice rink? Like everybody was down, or at least turning ankles or falling on their legs. It's like, dear God, these players are worth millions of dollars. Like, protect your assets. Get in a dome. That's why you spend all this money and all this infrastructure to get domes.
Did you hear about it though? It took 2 years. They grew that grass for 2 years, and that looked. You know what that grass looked like? You know when you get out of the shower, right, and all the water falls on your mat, right, and maybe it's a little shaggy. That's what that turf looked like. It was embarrassing. Like it's also sad. Like all these players are fighting for grass fields, right, and they finally got grass, and it was mush.
Yeah.
Like it's like that whole movement just got set back 5 steps because of the stupidity of the maintenance crew for watering it too much. Because did it rain the day before, or they just didn't take care of it?
Yeah, it was Arizona in the desert.
Yeah, they Phoenix. They just
overwatered it.
I don't know what they did.
Crazy.
But even the trainers were slipping. Once I saw that, they had a montage in the Super Bowl of showcasing everyone slipping, and then one of the angles was trainers eating shit like while they're trying to go, get water or whatever. I'm like, what the hell is going on with this field? Once I saw the trainers were wiping out, and then they had like a pile of cleats on one of the ankles because everyone was changing their shoes.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is an absolute mess.
Yeah,
it reminded me.
This is real bad.
It reminded me of that Justin Fields game where he's sliding.
Yeah.
Start of the year with that, and the end of the year with that. Yes.
Matt, I just so you know how you just mentioned the Rams Saints PI call.
Yep.
In 2018, it's a really interesting coincidence. September of 2019, online and in-person sports betting became legal in multiple states across the United States.
That's what I'm saying. You now have to ask that question for the rest of time. And
Couple of months later,
if you work for the NFL, and I don't know if this is the same for the NBA, like you cannot make a wager. I don't know.
I don't know for the NFL, but for at least the NBA, you guys know I work there. I can't bet on any NBA. I would think. Yeah, I would think the NFL would do the same. I would hope they would do the same.
Of course, they'll find the fat guy in Rapid or somewhere, underground bookie too.
Yeah,
but can't they hide like transactional bet wagers through like shell companies and other entities? I mean,
probably there's ways to do it. I'm just I'm not taking the chance, so I avoid it at all costs. But there's definitely ways you can. But it's like finesse gambling.
It's like federal employees at insider trading. It's like we all know what's going on.
Just who gets caught.
Right.
Yeah. The field was a mess, and that even affected the game one way or the other. I mean, you saw the Harrison Butker with him slipping on one of the kickoffs. It looked like his ankle's about to snap, but it's good enough to get the game a Super Bowl winning field goal out of it.
Matt, to answer your question on if they're allowed to bet, it's the same rules pretty much to the NBA. They can bet on other sports, but they can't bet on the league.
Yeah.
So I have a question for clarification. I thought that the direct end result from that controversy was that they were going to have further review within 2 minutes for DPI no calls.
And they did, and then there was a lot of people complaining about that rule being.
So they did away with it?
They did try it the year after.
I'm pretty sure they tried it, and people were getting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure people were getting annoyed on how long it took, and now we have this
subjective.
Now you have this expedited ruling, but even then, it still feels like it's 10 minutes of waiting. So it's just like a whole mess on reviewing things because everyone's got to complain at the end of the day.
All in all, you are now known as the worst field, and this was a place that have had many Super Bowls at it. Makes MetLife Stadium look like a beautiful prairie or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, even then, MetLife's turf is disastrous, but it wasn't as it's not a slip and slide like it was. For the Super Bowl.
It's very fitting that it's called University of Phoenix Field.
Guys, what happened to the Eagles pass rush? This big bad pass rush. We were talking about them being compared to the '85 Bears, and they didn't even get one sack. and the Chiefs O-line just snapped and did what they had to do when it mattered the most. What happened there, guys?
So, I want to take this first.
Mhm.
What I realized in the game, that if you guys didn't notice, how quick Pat Mahomes was getting the ball.
Yeah.
And I should have realized this the week before when I was talking about how I thought the Eagles were going to get 6+ sacks. They got all those sacks on pocket passers and having good coverage. And when you're playing a guy with a bad ankle who can't sit in the pocket because if he waits a little bit too long, doesn't have the mobility to get out of the pocket then. So it has to be a quick 2-step, 3-step drop, get it out quick. You can't get there to get the sack. So it's just like they didn't get sacks because they just didn't have the opportunity to. They sort of created some pressure, but when you have Pat Mahomes getting the ball off that quick, it's so hard. You have to be quick by tenths of a second to try to get that out there. So it definitely,
especially in the second half.
Yeah, especially in the second half, it really just completely disrupted the game. I also think just the game management, like once they got into a lead, they just didn't, they were just playing their main guys. They weren't doing any crazy blitzes, just, a very conservative defense, which led to the comeback, in my opinion, besides also the turnovers and the fumbles. But, when you go into a conservative defense, that's going to happen. You're going to rein it back a little bit because, what happens when you do go too hard on that blitz, holes open, Mahomes can run, there's more vision because there's clearer lanes between the offensive line. So it creates some issues. But yeah, definitely disappointed on the pass rush.
Yeah.
And give credit to Andy Reid switching it up in the second
Absolutely.
half.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
As we made the joke about Peyton Manning saying we didn't do second half adjustments. Well, someone did in the Chiefs locker room, and it led to the result that we have, obviously.
Yeah. I'm going to say this quick before anyone. Andy Reid is the greatest coach of all time. I've officially established that. Take it.
Stop it. You're
Stamping
hot.
it.
That's a hot take. We did
I
have
was
an
saying
argument.
Mount Rushmore.
He's,
I don't know about the very best.
I have him outside the top 5. I had a conversation with my uncles and my cousins about it this morning. It was actually like a really fun conversation that we had, but I don't have him as all time, but he's climbing the list. But to go back to the Eagles defense, like Brian said, it was just, Mahomes doing the Brady method of hike, get the ball out as quick as possible, take what the defense is giving him, and just, survive to another down. He did really well with that. They did have moments where they did create some pressure, but then again, he would roll out and find a little bit of a window and somehow do some of those crazy, shovel passes or sidearm throws or whatever he can do. So, kudos to them, for the did. And you can kind of put the blame on the Eagles defensive coordinator for just, not being aggressive and not setting the tone. And the Chiefs took advantage coming out of the second half. They realized they're being a little more conservative. All right, let's take what we can have and get back in this game. And that's exactly what they did. And the Eagles didn't do anything to turn it around. And that's why, they're not coming home, winners. They went different than what they normally were this year. And it was weird. I know they got a lead, but, being conservative when this defense is all time, and especially in the Super Bowl, you can't do that. You just got to remain. And if Mahomes beat you while you're being aggressive, okay, then maybe dial it back a little bit and work on it. But the fact that they were just kind of ultra conservative and not, trying to get to Mahomes, at least early on in the game, especially after the ankle injury coming out of halftime. They had a lot of time to heal, but, the fact that they didn't do anything was just kind of jarring to me, that we didn't see what, this defense was throughout this whole season in the biggest game of the year.
I don't even blame the fact that, so I said, I believe going back 2 weeks now, I said that the center of attention for this game is going to be Jonathan Gann, the DC for Philly, because he's going to be under immense pressure to survey things in the first half and then make adjustments of when he's going to send 5. When you know that you have an Achilles heel for a team and an offense like Andy Reid and the Chiefs with Mahomes' ankle, you have to attack it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it doesn't mean you have to send all your guys, send 5 and expose, what you want to do on defense in the first half. You want to play conservatively and read what they want to do, no pun intended. But the thing is, the thing is, at a certain point, you have to make adjustments. You have to get him out of his element, because I look back at this offense, and while Reid was playing the offense conservatively in the first half, he made adjustments, and they ultimately were able to they were able to scheme far more effectively against against the defense and what they wanted to do with Philadelphia, because they were getting the ball out early. It was a lot of slot guys. Pacheco was getting a bunch of stuff going. They involved Sky Moore. They had Travis Kelce moving. They had a bunch of different interesting things behind the line of scrimmage. But I put this on Jonathan Gannon's inability to send five and expose the weakness once you've seen what you've seen by the second half. That was really kind of appalling, because you had four guys with over 10 sacks this year. And I look back at some of the tape, and it's not like they were holding on every. I understand there's holding on every play, but I mean, Chris Jones was able to get home. You know, it's like I don't know what the problem is.
It really felt like, if I had to explain the time of possessions, which clearly the Eagles had most of, that the Chiefs, it felt like they scored on almost every single drive they had, with a few punts in there, and then the Eagles took their sweet time going down the field as well, and and here's the topsy turvy. The Chiefs scored when it mattered the most, and then the Eagles came up short, and again they just took their sweet time with it.
Just mistakes too. I mean, 33 penalty yards, critical points, and and obviously, I mean, the fumble by center field was huge, and the defensive breakdown on the special teams late in the fourth quarter. So there were definitely miscues that went against Philadelphia. And I think Kansas City was just a little more buttoned up in the second half.
Right. And how about Patrick Mahomes clearly punching his ticket to the Hall of Fame officially, especially winning a second Super Bowl MVP? Every single Super Bowl and multi-time Super Bowl MVP quarterback has gone to the Hall of Fame, with the exception of Eli. And I'm pretty sure, no bias aside, he will be in there one day. So all Hall of Famers, you pretty much, if you're a quarterback with those two, you're going in the Hall of Fame. And it seemed when Mahomes made, especially going into the halftime, where he was limping off the field, and then just the greatest training staff in the world getting him all taped up, lock and loaded, and it led to another 10-point comeback in the second half. Patrick Mahomes' performance, guys, winning the MVP. How about that?
So Patrick Mahomes had a very good game. The injury hurt him in the first half, and then he rallied back. He had those three passing touchdowns. He did his job. I was shocked he only threw like 180 yards.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's not the Super Bowl MVP though. I still think that Jalen Hurts should have got it. Even though he didn't win and would have been the second player ever in NFL history to get an MVP for the Super Bowl and losing. In my opinion, but he had a good game. Is this his peak performance I've ever seen? No, I feel like 2 years ago, 3 years ago was his best ball he was playing. He's still great. That's the amazing thing. It's almost like when if you compare to basketball, like LeBron James realistically could win the MVP every single season. Like this year he's averaging 30 points, but he probably won't win it because it's assumed you're going to be that good, and that great and that dominant. So that's basically what Patrick Mahomes is now. But do I think he should have got the MVP? No, but I'm happy he did though, because it puts him in elite company. But yeah, it's a mixed bag for me.
Yeah, I agree. It was a mixed bag for me as well. I was really hoping Kelce would go more off in like the second half, because he set the tempo early, and the way it was looking, I was like, oh, this dude's gonna probably walk away with the MVP. And I know I put like a free bet on him to win MVP, but this is not like a bias thing. I just thought he looked like the guy setting the tempo in this Super Bowl and being the best player out there. But as it went on, it was clear just stat wise, it's going to go to the quarterback. That's how it's favored. I kind of agree with Brian. Hurts had the numbers to deserve it, but the way the NFL is, I don't think we're ever going to get a losing team player winning the Super Bowl unless it's absolutely something ridiculous. And Hurts was pretty much borderline absolutely ridiculous in the Super Bowl. But yeah, it wasn't his best game, but he toughed it out and he did what needed to be done to win a Super Bowl. And since he's the quarterback of the team, usually going to win the MVP. So, wasn't an all-time great Super Bowl performance, but it definitely adds to his resume, and it definitely, locks his place up in Canton whenever he decides to walk away, which would probably be 15 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it gets stuck in my throat because I get so angry about Kermit the Frog. But I hate. Yeah. Look, I hate his guts. I'll never like him, but he played an exceptional game. He stayed out of his own way. He maximized everything that he had available to him in terms of offensive weaponry and just his health, for that matter. I thought he was hyper efficient. Read everything like a professional. But yeah, I mean, again, we always just kind of assume that it's going to be a quarterback taking home the MVP. And I'm not saying that he's undeserving. I actually thought that Isaiah Pacheco was the MVP. I thought that was a huge call on Alex's part. I thought he played out of his mind, particularly leading a weakling of the offense, which was the run game. And it was so critical to get that run game established in order to have a fighting chance to win this game. I think that was a big point for us in terms of the strategy that Casey was going to have to put forward in order to beat Philadelphia at their own game and beat them on offense, particularly. And I thought that him leading the charge on the most critical subsection of their offense, I thought was tremendous. And then obviously capping it with a touchdown. But he was 5.5 a carry. He was unbelievable, and he just brought good energy. Every time I saw him spring up from the grass, I thought he was bringing life to that offense, particularly when Mahomes was laboring and injured. So kudos to Mahomes, but I thought that Pacheco should have taken it home.
It seems like the NFL had some Mahomes bias.
No,
just a little.
Really?
No,
Just a
really?
smidge. Really? Yeah. No. Good call by Alex though. Props to Pacheco. You guys all know I'm on the Pacheco hype train. I was happy to see him.
He's a beast.
I was happy to see his story is great. Just to see him. I saw him at Rutgers a bunch. Then me and my fiance's dad would message each other and be like, if he goes to the right spot, like he's gonna be good. And he's a 7th round pick, goes to Chiefs, becomes their starter this year, and now he's a Super Bowl, champ. So good on Isaiah Pacheco. I agree with Alex. He would probably be my second person and or third between Kelsey and Pacheco to be MVP if it wasn't Mahomes.
Thinking back, if you really look at this game, like I wish you could give position groups an MVP because the Chiefs offensive line should easily get the MVP for this game, holding zero sacks to the Eagles and having the rushing game that they had. So maybe they have to add in that award the Super Bowl, like a position group MVP as well.
I mean, they're adding a bunch of awards to the NBA. You can add a couple more for their big games for the playoffs and the Super Bowl.
Yeah, most valuable position.
Yeah,
valuable position group.
Yeah.
So where do the Chiefs go from here? Do you think do you think they can win another Super Bowl, whether next year or the following year, and complete a dynasty? Is this Chiefs team headed for a dynasty?
As long as they have Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes, it's like Belichick and Brady. There will always be a shot because they're never going to miss the playoffs. Unfortunately, they're in a division that's a clusterfuck as always. I'm sorry, Alex, but every other team in that division shoots itself in the foot and is easily capable. Every team that year on paper could probably beat the Chiefs this season. It's just they don't know how to figure it out ever. Therefore, they have a shot to consistently do it. And when you have a guy like Pat Mahomes, you have a chance. The key is to continue to bring in youth to them because eventually Kelsey's going to get old. He's getting older now. He's in his mid-30s. You got Pacheco, you got Moore. You just got to continue developing and drafting well. And this easily could be a dynasty for next decade.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree too. Because the crazy thing is, if you look at as dominant as Chiefs has been, these last few years, this was probably their worst team. You can argue, and they still won the Super Bowl. If you look at all the dominant Chiefs teams that we have, this is arguably the worst team, and they won the Super Bowl. So, they add a few more pieces, they get a little bit stronger, And like Bryan said, you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. You can easily win more. A lot of people were discussing, are they going to win, 2 or more or whatever the case might be? I don't know what the number will be, but the window's there. I know the AFC is going to be tough for sure going forward. But with those two together, we're always going to count on the Chiefs to potentially win a Super Bowl. I don't think we're ever going to count them out. It has to be something crazy, like, God forbid Mahomes gets hurt, for us to really rule the Chiefs out of anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you guys said it all. I think they'll be there year after year for the next decade. I think the biggest underrated improvement and evidence that they will be a dynasty is the fact that they dealt Tyreek Hill last offseason. I thought that was a huge, clearing of the deck to even the books on payroll and bring in new drafted talent, and they're not really in the business of paying a lot of people. It's kind of the same formula that you guys said earlier with New England. It's like you still have your 1A and your 1B with Reed, Mahomes, and everything else can kind of fall into place, so the door will constantly swing open and close with new guys in the rotation, but the foundation is there. As long as they're healthy, they'll be around for another decade. And there's a ton of tremendous talent in the AFC, but it's just a matter of whose year it is to get over the hump, and they should probably be the favorites from there on.
Yeah, and I was just going to say one last thing that some people also kind of tend to forget too, is that when you're a constant winner, you're going to attract veterans who want to win rings, and usually you can get them on pretty good deals. So that what goes in the Chiefs' favor. You can get 1 year vet minimum guys or cheaper contract guys for players that just want to try to get a ring. So the Chiefs kind of have that in their favor, even though they're paying Mahomes a boatload of money going forward. They'll be getting some of those guys, some really talented guys probably on the cheap because they want to, win a Super Bowl.
And realistically, they only need one great receiver, and that's Kelce, because that guy demands attention by the defense, maybe a double coverage. And when you have an MVP caliber player like Pat Mahomes, you now have good receivers against good cornerbacks, and all he has to do is read.
Yep.
It makes it a lot easier. So
Brady retires, right? And let's say hypothetically Aaron does go to Vegas. Is anybody going to have an easier trip to the Super Bowl than Philly with Hurts, unless someone comes over to the NFC?
The next closest team is San Francisco and Dallas are the two ones that are most challenging just because of their defenses. But even then, there's just so many limitations on both those teams. 49ers went to the NFC Championship and they don't know who their quarterback is next year. Like, that's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
The Dallas Cowboys are about to get shredded in cap this offseason and probably going to have to cut a good amount of guys. So it's like a lot of teams are shifting. But as we've seen over the years, though, teams literally could change in a day and completely get revamped and go all in. Like,
especially with the draft.
Especially with the draft. I wouldn't sleep on the LA Rams. If they have a healthy Matt Stafford and a healthy Cooper Kupp, they're just with McVay, they're just weird like that. You had a down year from Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. You have an up year next year. They're a top 5 defense. So a lot of things can change. The Saints are always in play, in my opinion, and of having a down season to a great season, because all in Drew Brees' career, it was like 7-9. 13 wins, 5 wins, 14 wins. It was always up and down.
I think Carr might go there.
Yeah.
I think he's going to go to Carolina, but I know that they were negotiating a deal, and I think there was reported that has fallen through. But we'll have that covered for you during this offseason. And this is my last related Chiefs question at the moment. Are we Chiefs out? Or do we have the animosity as a whole like Ranniello does? Like,
I hated him.
So like a LeBron effect, like we're just sick and tired of the LeBron being in the finals every year.
Exactly. Yeah. There are people here Chiefs out. I'm on the brink, but there's nothing about them that you like hate. There's no one arrogant.
No,
I don't like Pat Mahomes. I don't like Pat Mahomes. That's like
I think some people don't like Kelce. I think some people don't like. I think Kelce runs his mouth a little bit too much sometimes.
Yeah,
like the Super Bowl stuff was cringe for me. I was just like, all right, like tone it down, buddy.
Like when he said, "Nobody believed in us."
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that far.
Kelce's the second coming to Shannon Sharp.
No one believed in you because they saw the script that you were going to be in the AFC Championship 2 weeks prior. But no, the reason they hate Kelce is because he's a pretty boy and he's got a hot chick, and he's he's kind of protected because how many times have I heard the fucking commentator go, "Well, I thought they were going to scheme to defend Kelsey." It's like, yeah, everyone with two eyes and a fucking pulse would have thought that too.
Yeah.
It seems like these defenses like don't even want to like go near him. It's almost like a Derrick Henry effect or something. It's weird. But
I mean,
Mahomes,
he's that good though too, where it just took the scheme and he still find a way to get open. It could be that too.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, yeah, I mean, obviously it's no secret. I've hated this team for 3 years now, almost even 4. But it's I think it's just the way it just feels like an artificial evolution with how Mahomes and this reign has kind of come together. It doesn't feel natural the way that like Burrow's effect or like Josh Allen's or like Lamar's or even Herbert's, like those feel like natural ascensions. Like you see the warts and all of the infrastructure. It just seems like Kansas City's been anointed. And I feel like some people had the same criticisms with New England. It's like they were anointed, they had protections, they were in a shitty division, and then they kind of took it over and they had the run on it. And I feel like it's kind of the same script over and over again.
Especially when you see Roger Goodell as if he was the owner of the Chiefs. I think that's really gonna push the heel turn of the Chiefs dynasty now.
I don't like that at all. No
Chiefs
commissioner should
win
have
No, you shouldn't be doing
bias.
something like that. You should be congratulating both teams. You be on the podium, congratulate the Super Bowl, congratulate the team. That's it. Shaking the hands with the guys, whatever. But what he was doing to me, that was weirded out by that. I'm like, why are you like dapping up and hugging these guys and like yelling in their ear? It's like, you know, shake your hand. Hey, congratulations. Hey, congratulations. Hey, just beeline to where you need to be. Like it was just weird. He was there celebrating, like Matt said, like he was one of the owners. It was just very bizarre to me.
And this is my problem with the NFL. There's no check on them because they're just a boardroom in a dark room somewhere. We don't know where it is. And they have all the say. No one has any of the black box information. It's just in the air. Did it happen? Did it not happen? You know, this is like there's no check on the NFL. They just do whatever they want.
And we always go back to them to watch their product. That's how they get us.
Well, that's the thing is they have a monopoly on the market. They know they're the number one brand in American sports. But my issue is kind of goes back to the missed call the last 2 minutes with Bradbury. It's like people can live with fallible results. Like they can live with human error. But what I don't like is like the fakeness and the artificiality of the league kind of pulling the strings, because then you're fucking with competition. Because if you're not having an honest, fair playing field of competition, you're gonna lose your product and you're gonna lose your key demos.
Man,
agreed.
What a time, huh? Now, speaking on the Eagles, their opponent who lost by a field goal, where do they go from here? The Nick Sirianni, I mean, that team had the world on their shoulder, and it's been discussed how they really got quote unquote challenged for the first time going up against a legit offense. And, though they competed until the very end, they weren't able to get the win, which ultimately matters. But, you clearly see that this can be a legitimate team in the NFC for years to come. Young coach, Jalen Hurts clearly did not let the moment fall for him. The 1-2 punch in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Dallas Goedert had a hell of a game, turning into a legitimate tight end in this league. And then we've been talking about that pass rush. Even though they couldn't get a sack in the Super Bowl, they were amazing throughout the whole season. Now, where do they go from here? And you can probably add on to Ranniello's point about how there's not as much competition in the NFC, at least at this moment, and we'll see what happens this offseason. But where do the Eagles go from here after their tough loss?
Basically, they have to re-sign their free agents as best they can. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's gonna, offer a high free agency since he led the league in interception. He's a top safety now. They could use some offensive line in the draft just because Kelsey and Lane Johnson are getting a little older. So now it's, they have to replenish the age, the injured, and those that leave. Those are the big three things. Developing Jalen Hurts into a more of a passer, as we've seen, the Hail Mary limitations. We can't all rely on strength like that. You have the arm talent or not. But, he relies a lot on the dual threadness when the running game does get shut down for him. He has to be able to develop that passing more, and he has done it, so it's going well. But in my opinion, the biggest question is I'm pretty sure Miles Sanders is a free agent, if I'm wrong. I think
Let me
Miles
confirm
Sanders.
that, or if somebody
Yeah.
else wants to really quick.
Let me see if I can find it real quick, but I think you're right. Let me check.
How about that Kenneth
He's set,
Gainwell?
yes. Sorry. So he's a free agent, okay? I think the best thing they could do is let him walk because he's really only had one good season. No, he's had two good seasons, but he's an injury prone. I think he's more of a system guy. If I'm them, what are you missing? I think of those greats constantly going to the Super Bowl, the NFC Championship teams. You need a bruising running back, like a little Brian Westbrook that you both hate. And I think they got to draft Bijan Robinson from Texas. I think that would be their Derrick Henry kind of guy. And you add him in with Gainwell and Boston Scott, and I think then they would be the favorites for the next few years. So I think it's solidify the run game even more for them, but a different kind of run game, more of a north and south, and not a east and west kind of run game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Eagles are probably going to dominate the NFC for the next few years. I mean, I know they have a lot of key pieces that they'll probably lose because that's usually what happens with really solid teams. That make it to the Super Bowl. Even if you lose, some of those type of players get paid big money. So I agree with Brian that I could see some of these guys demand money and the Eagles can't retain them, but when you're an organization like the Eagles, who have drafted well recently, they have players that want to be there now because they know they can compete for a Super Bowl. I think they'll be all right. I think they'll figure it all out. I can easily see them, be back in the NFC Championship game next year. But yeah, I agree with Brian. I think that it's crazy to think that they can even add more to this offense, but they really can. They can add a more dynamic, true, runner to this offense. They have two Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers. They have a great run game already, but you get that true, guy that you can just hand the ball off to, the special talent. And this team is going to, just continue to dominate over the next few years. So I completely agree with Brian as well. Like, I think that's like the one thing I was looking at where it's like, yeah, it's great you have running back by committee, and a couple of teams do that. The Chiefs do that too, but if they added a stud runner, and I really don't want to see another reincarnation of Brian Westbrook because that guy still haunts my nightmares all the time. But if they do that, they're set. And this defense is really solid. And I think, if they lose some pieces, they'll either draft or add more. Like I said, they're just really good at seeing talent. So I think they'll be all right. But yeah, I see this team really, having a stranglehold on the NFC at least for the next few years.
They will be the standard for at least 3 years, maybe 5. They can extend some of these contracts, but a key part of that, which is what you guys were alluding to, is that they're going to have to draft, like a late second round bruiser type of running back, someone who's like, just a horse that you can kind of pound the rock with, because you don't want to get some of that that wear and tear on Gainwell, and you could afford to let what's his face walk as well, because that's a very replaceable position, particularly in the kind of schemes that they want to run with Sirianni. Every regime always loses a couple, coordinators to coaching gigs, so that'll just be a little bit of a setback. They'll have to kind of reconfigure some things, but maybe even looking for some kind of safety in the draft too. I know Graham's getting up there in age, and he's been a cornerstone of that franchise for over 10 years, and he goes back to the first Super Bowl team that won it. They're gonna have to eventually let him walk, or someone will pick him up on a minimum contract. But I think preserving that defense is going to be critical as well, and just shoring up that middle of the nickel package with a nice new safety.
Okay.
Yeah, because the way I think about it is the NFC East got put on notice this year, and now everyone is going very quickly to get to the Eagles, and all 3 teams in the NFC are maybe 2 or 3 positions away from getting to competing with them in the regular season. You know what I mean? Washington's a quarterback away from being a playoff team easily with the offensive weapons and the way their defense is if they sign everyone. Dallas just needs consistency at quarterback play, and we could be playing them in the NFC Championship game. You know what I mean? So it's like the Giants had a stud season. If they get more talent, like a receiving room, they're going to challenge the division as well. So now it's, you know, this is the way you have so many years where you're under the radar, and now everyone's putting attention on you and figuring out your scheme. So I think the biggest key is for Sirianni to constantly keep people on their toes and change up their scheme. Usually it takes 2-3 seasons, and then your scheme is figured out, and then you have to create a new one. That's the hardest part about dynasties. So it's constantly him morphing his offense and his identity to make sure that the NFL is not getting used to it and easily picking off on it.
Man, great points. Great points as per usual, guys. Just a couple of things, other Super Bowl related. How do we feel about Rihanna's halftime show performance?
It was good to see her back. It's been a while, so it was a lot of it was a mashup of old songs and new ones. So it gave a lot of nostalgia, I feel.
Yeah, I thought it was solid. It was good to see her back on stage, like Brian said. I'm not a huge fan of hers, but everyone that I was hanging out with was vibing and having a good time. It's good to see her back. She's a great performer. I don't think it was better than last year. That's just my opinion, but a lot of people like it was better than last year. But I enjoyed watching it. But do I think it's up there on the top echelon of Super Bowl halftime shows? No, but it was fun to see her. It was fun to see her back and perform again. It was cool.
I joined
kudos to her. Kudos to her. She did it pregnant too.
She did do pregnant, which was pretty cool to see.
That's pretty good. That's hard to do.
Yeah.
I jumped in on the nostalgia and I treated myself to a nice cherry dipped cone at Carvel yesterday. No, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be plenty of tape breaking down what kind of Freemasons death cult shit that she was trying to pull with some of those platforms and
Symbolism.
those peons running through the grass. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, like I thought it was super entertaining, even if I don't listen to her. All you can ask for is entertainment at these kind of events. It's not really about the quality of music, but it was super, super interesting. I love the choreography, all that stuff was really freaking cool. And yeah, those
shout out.
Fine.
Yeah. Shout out. I was going to say real quick. Shout out to the stage design people, because God knows the stress they were going through with all those moving platforms. And you have I know she was strapped in, but still anything could freaking happen when you do that. And for them to be able to pull off some of the set things I thought that was pretty cool.
Engineering.
Yeah.
It was
really
cool.
engineering.
It was really cool. It was really a spectacle. Like that's the thing is like once you get rid of the belief that like they're doing it actually for the fans in terms of the music quality, which I've dispensed with a long time ago, you start to kind of just appreciate the spectacle of like the choreography and the maintenance and the engineering that goes into it, and like the camera work and the lights.
Yep.
That's just so insane and so difficult. And like I appreciate it from that perspective.
Goodell's gonna have to hire you for for promoting the halftime show, because I think that's exactly the point at this point. And how did we like the commercials, guys? Which ones really stuck out? I thought it was a really good year for commercials. And the last few years was kind of there. But I really liked the roasted peanuts, the Popcorners Breaking Bad commercial. And the trailers are all franchise movies. That
the Tubi one was funny because everyone thought their
everyone's TV
screen
was
got
jacking
changed.
up. That was funny.
Personally, I thought that I didn't get fooled by it because I use that stuff all the time. But you can account for Olsen and Burkhart's wonderful acting job.
Yeah,
that one was pretty funny. A lot of people were talking during the commercials, so I didn't really get to hear a lot of them. But the Breaking Bad one was pretty good. But yeah, the Tubi one I think was the funniest one, where everyone was like, "What the hell's going on?" And we're all like, "It's a commercial." But to see other people on like social media's reaction to that, was pretty funny. I have to say.
Speaking of Greg Olson, kudos to him. He's only been broadcasting like 2 years, and he made it to the Super Bowl already. So good job on him.
And he's
They
allegedly
should not
taking
kick him out.
he's taking a pay cut when Brady shows up, supposedly, and then
That's a
going down to the
shame.
second team. That's what he's supposedly doing. So
Because Brady needs all that money.
yeah, exactly. So supposedly he's getting a pay cut. I guess probably was like, okay, you get to do the Super Bowl. Now we're going to give you a pay cut once Brady shows up. All right, cool, got it. All right, thanks, Greg. That's how it went down.
Oh God.
My leaning on that though is that Brady's not going to, even all that money that they're going to throw at him, it's not going to last him more than 2 years, because when you have that kind of appetite like Jordan does, that kind of job is too cushy. That doesn't satisfy you.
Yeah, part of me thinks he's going to back out of that. I really do. He said he's not going to do it at least till 2024.
Yeah.
I just feel like he'll just say, "Yeah, I'm good, guys."
There's guys that are perfect for that, but that's just not him.
I feel
like
go
to his professional golf career.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's gonna be like I feel it's gonna be like the Romo effect, where like he just starts off so white hot and then he just goes into cruise control. Like everyone's now like supposedly I heard some reports like the CBS execs I think were like saying that like they were having meetings with like a meeting with Romo about this year, because like everyone was like, oh, he started off so great, and now everyone's like, what's going on? He's just kind of just like there. Like it doesn't seem like he's invested or he's just going into like the typical, like he's going to the typical broadcaster of like being impressed by all the quarterbacks and loving every single moment of them and not like analyzing the game like he did when he started.
Well, I know what this is calling for. It's a play for my boy Kevin Harlan to get in there for the permanent position.
He had an awesome Westwood One call.
He did
some clips there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's got some greatest hits.
Thank you. And I think but Alex, did Alex Ranniello, you weren't feeling the commercials, or what you saw? It's like,
I don't know. I come from a marketing perspective, so like I just see them for what they are.
Just cameo filled.
Yeah.
I'm happy there wasn't a lot of crypto commercials. Remember last year?
Yeah, I think I heard 4 of them got backed out after the FTX collapse.
Yeah, I was just like, last year was just all just getting crypto thrown at us, and this year was like, yeah, let's tone it back after FTX. So
I wanted them to poke fun. I want, there's the other websites like crypto.com, which are like the multi-trading platforms. I wanted them, or like Robinhood or something, to have like this one where it's like they have him like bound and gagged up and tied up in the Bahamas, and it's like Epstein's is in his boat. He's waving hello, like just something crazy over the top. It's like, am I seeing this? Am I out of the Matrix?
Oh boy! One of these days they're gonna get ballsy enough. One of these days.
Never happened.
Oh man! Well, guys, I think that wraps everything up.
Yes.
Put a bowl on Super Bowl 57. We'll check back in not next week, but the week after to wrap up this NFL season and officially start the next one. And then we'll start a road to Las Vegas, guys, in Super Bowl 58. Will Alex's team be playing a game there?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Sorry, Alex. I had to. Who knows?
Be the truth teller.
We got to see what Rodgers does out of his darkness retreat, I guess, before we really dive into anything.
That's going to be an emergency podcast if he goes to the Jets, by the way. Be prepared.
But a soon-to-be former Raider quarterback could be in the Super Bowl, and that might be, the best icing on the cake for Alex. Just a full-on slap in the face to the organization.
That'd be hilarious. I would love every second of it.
Get their shit together, find that special receiver, and will they represent the NFC?
It's Shane we trust.
Will Jerry Jones know how to be a GM and actually have a good offseason and actually bring my team back from the ashes of the 90s? Never.
Nope, never.
Exactly.
Will Maher hit the goalpost?
Oh, man. As you can see, so much high expectations for our team, but it'll be fun. We'll wrap up the season in 2 weeks, and we'll start some more great content in a new chapter. Thank you, gentlemen. Brian, Alex, and Alex. Much love, guys. We'll see you really soon.
Peace out.